The security guard didn't even hesitate. He looked me over, took in my worn jeans and sweatshirt, then pointed toward the service entrance. Staff goes that way. That was my grand welcome to my own sister's engagement party. I could have corrected him. I could have told him I wasn't there to haul trays or top off champagne. But instead I walked where he pointed, letting the embarrassment settle into my bones like a draft creeping under a door. Inside that glittering circle of future in-laws my sister was so desperate to impress. Not one of them knew who I really was. And once they did, well, that's when the night truly began. 2 weeks earlier, my sister had called me with the same tight, careful tone she used whenever she reminded me to dress nicely for holiday photos. She spoke quickly, like she was afraid I'd interrupt whatever speech she'd practiced in the mirror. She said the party would be elegant, important, full of people who understood success. And maybe just this once I could try to look like I belonged in the family, instead of someone who accidentally wandered into their pictures. She didn't even realize she'd insulted me. That was the part that stung the most. In her mind, she was helping me avoid embarrassment. I told her I'd show up. She didn't ask anything else. She never does. All our lives, my sister cared more about appearances than truth. She was the child who straightened picture frames before giving hugs. The one who insisted we wear matching dresses every Christmas. Who learned the language of wealth long before she understood what any of it cost. My parents encouraged it, praised it even. She was the polished one, the chosen one. And I was the one they quietly hoped would find her way someday. They never asked what I'd been doing during the 3 years I disappeared from town. They didn't wonder why I suddenly seemed stable, organized, impossibly busy. They assumed I was chasing another vague online project, one of those things they could never quite explain to their friends. I let them think that. It was simpler. Walking through the hotel kitchen that night, blending in among cooks and servers, I moved easily between people carrying trays, stacks of plates, steaming pans. One staff member even handed me a bundle of folded napkins without a second glance. I didn't correct them either. If there's one thing I'm good at, it's staying unnoticed. Meanwhile, upstairs, my sister was probably adjusting her smile in a mirror, smoothing the dress she'd obsessed over for weeks, trying to prove, through immaculate flowers and overpriced champagne, that she deserved the wealthy family she was marrying into. She'd bragged about them endlessly. Old money, summer homes, words like heritage and lineage dripping from every conversation. She didn't know their wealth was already cracking beneath the surface. She didn't see the fractures forming. Waiting for the service elevator, the kitchen noise humming behind me, I felt it. A certainty settling deep in my chest. Tonight was going to unravel more than just a party. My sister's shining dream was about to collide with a truth none of them were ready for. And I already knew exactly how the pieces would fall. When the elevator doors opened onto the ballroom floor, the first thing I felt wasn't music or laughter. It was tension. Thin, sharp, stretched tight like a violin string about to snap. My sister stood at the center of it all, barking orders in a voice that clung to the edge of panic. She rearranged the same centerpiece for the 4th time, scolding staff for imaginary wrinkles in linens. A server apologized even though the tablecloth was perfectly smooth. She didn't see me. Or maybe she pretended not to. Across the room, the groom's family watched everything with the detached confidence of people who believed the world bent itself to their convenience. The groom's mother inspected floral arches with narrowed eyes, tapping petals like she was assessing produce at a market. The father hovered beside her, feigning interest while checking his watch every 30 seconds. The younger brother leaned against the bar, scanning the room like he was shopping for something, or someone, to amuse himself. I tried to slip past unnoticed, but of course he stepped directly in my path. "So you working tonight?" he asked, his eyes dragging over my sweatshirt with lazy judgment. Before I could answer, he pulled a folded bill from his pocket and held it between 2 fingers. Casual, dismissive, insulting. "If you're free later, bring a drink up to the suite." I didn't take the money. I didn't say a word. I just walked away. "Behind me," he muttered. "These staff girls get so sensitive." It hit like a bruise being pressed. Back in the kitchen, things were unraveling fast. The head chef paced furiously, cursing about the last-minute menu changes. My sister had switched her requests not once, not twice, but 3 times within 2 hours. The staff wasn't angry anymore, they were exhausted. "If she sends this back again, I'm quitting," one server whispered. Another added, "The groom's mom is complaining the champagne isn't the right shade of gold." I kept peeling shrimp, hands working on autopilot, as murmurs drifted through the swinging doors. "Did you hear?" someone said. "The groom's mother tried to pay one of the audio guys to fix something later." Fix what? Like sabotage someone. My stomach tightened. I didn't need to ask who she meant. A rush of footsteps broke through the noise. One of the floor managers burst into the kitchen, face pale, breath choppy. Something had gone wrong, very wrong. The sous chef leaned in close to the head chef, voice barely above a breath. "The event payment bounced," he murmured. "Bank sent it back this afternoon." The chef froze. His ladle slipped from his hand and hit the counter with a sharp metallic crack. "What do you mean bounced?" "I mean," the sous chef whispered, "there's no money." The words moved through the kitchen like a cold draft cutting beneath a door. I felt the air leave my lungs, not out of shock but out of recognition. Everything I'd been sensing all night finally clicked together, like someone snapping the last puzzle piece into place. The guard who misidentified me, my sister's frantic smiles, the groom's family dressed like royalty but acting like cornered debtors, the bribed staff, the brittle tension, the way the evening felt swollen with secrets. This wasn't a celebration. It was a staged illusion held up by people who couldn't afford the ticket price. I rinsed my hands, slipped off the apron, and stepped away from the station. Nobody stopped me. Nobody even looked up. I walked straight toward the elevator, the one leading to the executive floor. The wing downstairs guests didn't even know existed. As the doors closed, I caught a final glimpse of my sister spinning in circles, desperately adjusting centerpieces as if she could control the night by sheer force of will. But she couldn't control what was coming. "Enough," I whispered as the elevator climbed. Time for the truth to clock in. The executive floor greeted me with the kind of silence that money buys. Thick carpets, warm lighting, air that smelled faintly of polish instead of panic. Downstairs I was invisible. Up here I was the one who defined the rules. I placed my finger on the biometric panel. The door to my private office unlocked. Everything was precisely as I'd left it. Soft gray furniture, clean lines, a cityscape spilling in through floor-to-ceiling windows. No chaos, no noise, just clarity. I walked to the monitor array and began tapping through feeds. Every camera in the building flickered to attention. Ballroom entrances, kitchen exits, sound booth, service corridors. I rewound until I found the moment. The groom's mother leaned close to a stagehand near the sound controls. Something small and folded exchanged hands, cash. He pocketed it quickly, guilt written across every twitch of his posture. She pointed to the microphone stand, then to my sister obsessing over flowers. The man slipped a small device into the control panel. Sabotage. Planned. Rehearsed. My pulse didn't spike. It steadied, cold, calm, razor sharp. I switched to another feed. The administrative office where event payments were processed. A flashing notification lit up the screen. Transaction returned. Insufficient funds. All the crystal, gold, and choreographed elegance downstairs were nothing compared to that one brutal sentence. Another notification blinked. A financial report from earlier. I opened it. Unpaid bills. Stacked mortgages. Pending liens. Old money held together with duct tape and denial. Their coastal estate, one letter away from foreclosure. I leaned back in my chair and exhaled. My sister had no idea. She had fallen for the fantasy, blind to the cracks. Blind to the way his family looked at her like she was their financial lifeline wrapped in lace. I couldn't blame her. But I also couldn't let her drown in someone else's ruin. I called security, asked them to archive the footage of the bribe at the sound booth. Then I phoned the general manager and instructed him to wait for my signal before acknowledging the bounced payment. Everything would be addressed properly, professionally and legally. This wasn't payback for the insult at the door. This was correction. Truth replacing theater. Before heading back down, I paused at the window. The ballroom lights glittered like a beautiful lie. They still thought I was a server. They still assumed I didn't belong. They had no idea the floor beneath them had already shifted. The elevator doors opened onto the ballroom level, and heat and noise engulfed me. Down here the world was movement, Servers weaving, guests laughing too loudly, champagne sloshing in glasses like liquid pride. No one noticed me. Perfect. I lifted an empty tray to complete the disguise and walked slowly through the crowd. The groom's younger brother lounged at the bar. When he saw me, he shot me a smug grin and raised his drink like an invitation. He mouthed something crude. If only he knew. My sister stood near the center, fluttering from centerpiece to centerpiece, adjusting petals and ribbons as if perfection could hold everything together. Her face was a battlefield, hope, fear, pressure all tangled together. She stole glances at the groom's mother, searching her expression for approval, permission, validation. She had no idea what was unraveling around her. The groom's mother stood rigid, chin lifted like a sharpened edge, scanning the ballroom as if she were assessing investments. She had no idea the ground beneath her plans was already crumbling. She didn't notice the nervous staffer she paid off earlier lingering near the sound booth, fingers brushing the pocket where her bribe sat. Her scheme was seconds from exploding. Mine, however, had already begun. When the ballroom doors slid open again, the general manager entered. He held a folder in both hands, the way someone carries something heavy with consequences. His gaze swept the room before stopping on me. My sister lifted her hand, confident he was coming to her. She even stepped forward, prepared to receive whatever update he carried. But he didn't slow. He walked right past her. "Mississippi Lane," he announced clearly. Gasps fluttered across nearby tables. I let the pause stretch out before folding the apron I'd been wearing, placing it on the bar, and pulling my sweatshirt straight. Suddenly the room really saw me, not completely, not fully, but enough to sense something shifting. "Yes," I answered steady. He opened the folder. The event payment was rejected. Insufficient funds. We need instructions on how to continue. The ballroom froze. Not silent, just holding its breath. The groom's mother blanched as if someone had struck her. The groom's father stared at the floor. The younger brother jolted upright. My sister stopped mid-stride, confusion washing across her features. I took out my phone and connected it to the AV system. The screens blinked, then displayed multiple security camera angles: the hallway, the bar, the sound booth. The video zoomed in. There she was. The groom's mother slipping cash into a staff member's hand, pointing to the microphone, instructing him as he plugged a device into the panel. The room reacted like a wave crashing onto shore. First a ripple of whispers, then a surge of voices, then a stunned hush. My sister made a small broken sound, shock tangled with betrayal. The groom stared at his mother, horrified. "What did you do?" She said nothing. "There's more," I said, tapping the next file. Public records appeared. Layered mortgages, overdue notices, liens, warnings from banks. A foreclosure notice darkening the page like a bruise. "They're not the old money dynasty they pretend to be," I said quietly. "They plan to use this wedding and my sister as a financial reset." Whispers swirled, outrage, fascination, disbelief. The groom stepped away from his parents, as if realizing he'd been standing at the edge of a cliff without knowing it. My sister stared at the screens, trembling. "You knew." "I confirmed it tonight," I answered. "But the signs were always there." The groom's mother snapped. "This is a violation of privacy. How dare you?" "These are public records," I cut in. "Anyone can access them." Before she could speak again, I opened the final clip, footage of her rummaging through my sister's handbag. Gasps rippled through the room. "Why would you go through my things?" my sister whispered. The groom's mother pressed her lips together, silent. I stepped into the center of the ballroom. This night should never have been about appearances. But it turned into something worse: manipulation, sabotage, lies. I met the groom's mother's eyes. "You tried to destroy someone else's reputation to protect your own. You tried to use my sister as leverage. And you attempted to sabotage an event in a building you didn't realize belongs to me." She froze. My sister blinked in shock. "You own this place?" she asked. I nodded. "And the rest of the chain?" A complex emotion flickered across the groom's mother's face. Surprise, denial, regret, something fragile. "Why didn't you tell me?" my sister whispered. "I tried," I said softly. "But you were too focused on how I looked to hear anything about what I'd built." Her chin trembled. The groom spoke, voice cracking. "I swear I didn't know they were doing this. If I had." This isn't about sides, I interrupted gently. It's about the truth. I faced his mother. You have two choices. One, leave quietly, and I'll cover the cost of the event as a gift to my sister. Two, I report the attempted fraud, sabotage, and the bounced payment, and let law enforcement handle it. Her husband tugged at her arm. We're leaving. She didn't argue. She walked toward the exit, heels tapping like the retreating steps of defeat. The younger brother followed. The groom remained. He turned to my sister, tears pooling. I don't care about the money. I love you. I want a life with you. One built by us, not them. My sister collapsed into his arms, sobbing. Then she turned to me, voice shaking. I'm so sorry. For not seeing you. For not listening. For letting insecurity make you smaller in my mind. I pulled her close. She cried harder. You weren't small, I whispered. You just forgot your own worth. Tonight reminded you. Around us, the room slowly exhaled. Conversations resumed. The band switched to a soft melody. Staff members nodded at me with relief. A party that had nearly become a disaster settled into something steadier, clearer. My sister sniffed. What happens now? Now, I said. You choose a future built on honesty, not illusion. Her fiancé squeezed her hand. I want that too. Then build it together, I said. As they stood beside me, stripped of pretense, humbled, real, I felt something inside me release. This wasn't revenge. It was clarity. A beginning carved out of what had been broken. Truth didn't just surface that night. It stepped through the front door. The ballroom emptied quickly. The groom's parents vanished without a backward glance, leaving behind the remnants of their polished facade. Staff cleaned up quietly, almost relieved, as if fresh air had finally swept in. My sister and her fiancé stayed with me in the aftermath. No glamorous poses, no rehearsed smiles. Just two people standing in the wreckage of a night that almost shattered them, yet stitched them back together in a truer way. The next morning, my sister came to the hotel wearing simple clothes and asked where to begin. I pointed her toward housekeeping. She didn't flinch. She wanted to understand the people she'd once spoken over and dismissed. The groom joined the accounting department, determined to face the numbers his family had dodged for years. Weeks passed. They moved into a modest apartment across town, paid their own rent, learned to budget, burned a few dinners, and laughed at themselves. I watched them grow into a version of themselves untouched by wealth's illusions. As for his family, their estate on the opposite coast eventually slipped into foreclosure. They moved south, chasing a quieter, smaller life. Justice didn't scream. It arrived softly, the way truth favors. A year later, my sister married in the hotel garden. No crystal chandeliers, no performance. Just sunlight, close friends, and promises that felt real. She walked in through the service entrance on purpose, smiling like she finally understood where her life rebooted. I stood at the back, watching her step into a future she chose, one not chosen for her. And for the first time in years, everything felt exactly where it belonged.